So I've got a couple exciting things going on today, at least it is for me. So I'm planning on making another tangent stave turning, and I also just built this sled for cutting tapers, and I've got it set up where I can adjust to any angle I want, going either direction. I have some birch, and I'll make 18 staves from that, and I have walnut, and I'll get 18 staves from there. I won't make you watch all 36 cuts, but I'll show you some of them and it'll look exactly the same. Then I'll come back and show you how I built this so that I can adjust it and be sure that the angle is correct. Let's go ahead and cut a few pieces, and when I come back I'll show you what we've cut and I'll show you how that works. Pretty happy with how my new sled worked. He's cut very nice, and I think it's going to fit together, but the best way to find that out is with a dry fit. I also drew this up to be tangent to this diameter here. That means I want them laying over here and not radial, trying to reach the center. So let's go ahead and put this together and see how it looks. You can see they just sort of automatically line up. I'll be using this band clamp to test it and to glue it together, and it'll clamp it quite well. Okay, well, I can see right now without even adjusting that I've got good glue joints on the top, and I have good glue joints on the bottom. These pieces came right off the table saw. I've done nothing to them, and it should glue together real nice. That's what we're going to do now, and it will get a little messy with all these pieces. Let me get something up here on my bench and we'll go ahead and glue this together. Okay, here we go, and I'm going to try this with gloves. Not real fond of using them. They might come off real soon. I'm going to try to use this little glue spreader. Okay, there it is. Go ahead and get this clamp around it. Okay, I think we got it. I did mention I'd show you how this sled works, and I do need to let that glue sit all night before I turn it. So I'll show you a little bit about this, and it's very adjustable. It goes this way and it'll turn that way. And the reason that it will is because I have slots running this direction and I have slots running the opposite direction. This will allow it to pivot like so. I machined a 10-degree wedge, and I know that's 10 degrees. I did it on my CNC mill. goes up against a rail right here, and I just push that against there, and I use the wing nuts to tighten it down. This is parallel, I machined it as well. I put my wedge in there, clamp it down, and cut it. So after I cut the first one, I know that that was going to be alright, but I always double check everything. I took my digital angle finder, I zeroed it to the table. I took the very first one, I put it in the same spot, and I checked it, and it was 10 degrees. So now I'm very comfortable, everything is going to be good. But all the angles that I measured and made it work, I used geometry. So why not use it here? I took the tangent of 10 degrees times the length of what this turned out. That gives me the height of this end, as long as that's a right angle. It'll tell me what that should be. I measured it with digital calipers. It was right on. I went ahead and cut all 36 pieces, and they went together real nice. As soon as the glue's dried tomorrow, I'll get back on it and turn it. So I'll see you then. I have the piece mounted in the lathe, and you can see I've got a piece of Padauk. It's a segmented piece that I had extra from something else, and I decided that might make a nice bottom. So I hot glued a tenon on this back side here, flattened it out. I have this glued on. Now I just need to flatten this out, get rid of these steps, and we'll start creating a shape. Got a 5/8 bowl gouge, and we're turning 800 RPM. I pulled the tailstock back so I could see if I could get a cleaning cut this way, because it will cut a lot smoother going across there. Okay, I think we're ready to sand. It turned out nice and smooth. I'm going to start with 120 grit. Try to clean up this corner here. I'll be sanding in reverse, probably around about 400 RPM. The rest of this I can start with 180 grit. Alright, that's going to work. I'll go ahead and get this sanded up to 400. And I'll decide if I want to shorten that just a little bit more, because I don't want to do it later. Okay, I'll be back when this is all sanded up to 400. I have it flipped around now, and this is the tenon that I hot glued on this side while I turn the bottom. And I've also hot glued a tenon on the bottom of this so I can finish the inside. I'm going to leave this one on for a while I rough this out, and then we'll remove it. I'm going to start with a 1/2 inch bowl gouge. And we're doing around 750 RPM. I don't really think this is going to be a functional piece, just more something to look at. I also think it's time to remove this tenon. I'm going to soak this a little bit with some denatured alcohol, and then I'll be right back. Alright, this wasn't real critical, so I was able to use the denatured alcohol and the chisel just to get that loose, because this has to be turned anyways. But you can see this tenon just fit in that hole. Okay, so now I can see my other bottom clear down here. And I do have a plan for filling this hole. Now pull the tailstock out of the way, and then I can make cuts going the other direction, which will cut better. Okay, same 1/2 inch bowl gouge and 898 RPM. I'm going to just go with a reverse angle on this top edge and not put a segmented ring on it. Okay, I like that. So that's going to be it right there. That looks good to me. Let's just go ahead and get the rest of this down, and I'll show you what I will be doing right here. Here's the plan. This is a piece of Padauk. I'm going to turn this down a little step in here so it fits inside of there. And then I plan on turning a very slight dome on this piece and give it sort of a sunflower look. Got that set for what the inside diameter is. I just really don't want to take this out of the chuck, and this is just kind of another experiment in my 1/2 inch gouge. After I got glue on this piece, I suddenly realized that we were going somewhere, and I really didn't have time to mess around with it. So I wiped the glue off, and when we got back home, I redesigned the whole idea, and you'll see that shortly. So I had glue on the piece last night, and I just didn't like what I was doing. So what I did was I turned a little step to where this part will fit against it, and when I turn this down I won't have a feather edge, and so it's glued on a little step in here and then on the bottom. But I had to go somewhere, and I just chucked that piece and made a new one when we got back, and I glued it in. We'll just go ahead and finish blending this in. I'll use my negative rake scraper to get it blended in. Alright, I've got it blended in. I kind of like how it looks, so I think we'll go ahead and get this sanded and we'll get a finish on it. All set to sand, and I'll start with 120 grit with the lathe running forward at about 350 RPM. And I'll get my mask on and get my dust collector going. Sand it up through 400 and I'll be back and we'll put a finish on it. Okay, it is time for one of the more exciting parts of wood turning, and that's to see what it looks like with some finish on it. But I want to point out that all of these pieces going towards the center means that when I'm sanding while it's turning, I'm going across the grain. So in between each grit, I would take the sandpaper of the same grit and sand along with it. And it didn't take very much at all to take care of that. Once around and it was done. Okay, here it goes. I am using Lacquer. I'm trying a different brand. We'll see how it looks. Well, that's the start. What I did on that first coat was put it on real light because that's Padauk and I don't want it to get real wet with the finish because it will bleed. So now I'll show you how I get the rest of it on. Put a lot more on this time and it shouldn't bleed. So I'll do that a couple more times. I have 5 coats of lacquer sprayed on this and it already looks good. But I decided to use the Acks abrasive paste on it and then I'll use the polish. And I want to wait until it's all buffed out so you can see it because it's really going to look nice. I'll take care of all of this and I'll be back and I'll show you what we have. Alright, I do have this hot glued tenon to remove. I went around and drizzled denatured alcohol around this and right there I was able to just pop that up and hopefully it's just going to peel off. I did the same thing 3 more times and then it came off. Alright, I think it's going to pop right off now. Like that. Alright. I'm going to clean the bottom up and I'll be right back and show you what we have. Well, here it is, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It's made out of walnut, yellow birch, and Padauk. Finished 10 inches in diameter. It's about 1 5/8 tall, and the walls are about 3/8 of an inch. I sprayed 5 or 6 coats of lacquer on it, and then I used Acks abrasive paste and polish. This gave it a very smooth finish, but it also helped show off the grain as it reflects in the light. And you'll see how this yellow birch changes with the different angles the light hits it when it's on the turntable, so make sure you look for that. That's a piece of Padauk, and I left a little dome on it, which I think looks better than flat. And this is a leftover segmented ring made out of Padauk, and I decided to use it. And I finished that with Howard Feed and wax because I didn't want to spray this and then have it get over the bottom, which looks pretty interesting itself. Overall, I think it looks really nice. Oh, and then speaking of using leftover segmented rings, there's another turner that does that. Gord Rock. If you haven't seen Gord's videos, you need to check him out. Gord's a great wood turner and he does excellent videos. I'll put a link in the description to his channel, so make sure you go check him out. I really enjoyed making this turning, and I also enjoyed making my new adjustable taper cutting sled. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like the video, do me a favor and click that like button. And while you're there, it would be great if you could share the video around. Those two things will really help my channel grow. Leave a comment. I read them all, and I do my best to answer them all. Thanks to all my subscribers. And if you're not, please consider doing so. I do a mix of all types of turnings. Some are simple and some are complex, so let me know your favorite. Thanks again, and until the next time, see you later.